The quality of being faithful and dependable, according to the Internet Dictionary. So constancy, that's being dependable in your practice, being faithful in your practice. Oh, not just your practice, just your overall as a person. You're dependable and devoted to the things that you do. You do them wholeheartedly. If you say you're going to do them, they always get done. So that's where he's at. People who know the state of emptiness will always be able to dissolve their problems by constancy. All right, by just constant attention, constant awareness on all these things. Those who know that state of emptiness, that state of inner peace, when there's no particular arising, you're in the sea of the general in that sense. The general, you have a generalized notion of self that includes everything, and you are riding in a sea of everything with no particulars. The message for us today is cultivate your own spirit. All right, I like this anytime. It means not to go seeking for something outside of yourself. All right, if you can hold this first clue, not just a clue, this is the answer to the game right here. This is the cheat sheet to end all cheat sheets. Do not look for anything outside of yourself to fulfill yourself. Boy, that is the number one thing right there. If you can know that to be true, that you don't do it not just because it's forbidden, which it's not forbidden in that sense. He tells you not to do it because it's impossible to do. There's nothing outside of yourself that can fulfill you. And so as long as you are looking outside in the world of change for fulfilling and answers to life and to being, it's an endless quest. There's a curse associated with it, a curse of hunger, a constant hunger, and a constant call to work, that you'll spend all of your days. It's the curse of the Garden of Eden, that you'll spend all the days tilling the soil, which means going to work constantly in order to fulfill the desires that you're trying to get fulfilled in the external world. So it means not to go seeking for something outside of yourself. This is a very important point, and it is the only way to practice Zen. It's the only way to practice spiritual life, because it's the centerpiece of the truth, that thou art that you are this immortal, ever pure, ever free, unchanging self, and nothing can be added to it. Not because it's impossible, but because it's completely and utterly unnecessary. It might be impossible too, but I don't like to put a limit. Mother's always able to creatively demonstrate, So our self is already full, already happy, already content. And so it's just the attention that has gone off center and focused on things that are not ourself, and identified with things that are not ourself. And so we've imagined hungers and needs and thirsts that have no real existence. First of all, they only exist because of ignorance, because of lack of attention, and they can't feed you because they are shadows, right? If you were at the art and spirit class, Rakib Shah, his art, he had one where he was picture of himself gazing into a mirror. And he says about it, there's an old statement: if it's yourself that you seek, my pilgrim, do not look within the mirror, for it is just a shadow. And so we brought to light that according to Vedanta, the mind is that mirror. The mind is the world of the changing. And that if you're looking for yourself, don't look into the mind to find it. You exist before mind. So the mind, this world, is just shadows, just reflections. It's just a mirror. Of course, studying scriptures or reciting the sutras or sitting is Zen. Each of these activities should be Zen. But if your effort or practice does not have the right orientation, it will not work at all. Not only will it not work, but it may spoil your pure nature. Then the more you know about Zen, the more you will become spoiled. Your mind will be filled with rubbish, your mind will be stained. Okay, it's interesting that he's really driving that point home. It's like, if you are looking for something outside of yourself, even if it's your practice, even if it's your religion, or even if it's your philosophy, if you consider it to be external to yourself and that it's something you're adding to yourself, by learning the scriptures, by memorizing sutras, by reading books, by visiting swamis, by going on pilgrimages, if you're trying to add religion to yourself, doing all of these things, he's saying that your religion, your practice is off center, and you're just piling rubbish in there. Those things are not the answer. They're not going to happen. Our practice is about finding what we already have, not adding to it. It's going inside and trying to become aware again of what we've always been carrying and what we have forgotten, because it's been so regular, it's been so constant. In the name of the chapter here, it's been so faithful that we've stopped paying attention. And after we stopped paying attention, we've literally forgotten. If you don't pay attention to something for long enough, eventually the mind just lets it go and doesn't think about it anymore. And that's why we practice. Try and bring awareness back to the mind, back to our own self, back to the moment, so that we can see what we have long forgotten. And we can cease searching for it then. It is quite usual for us to gather pieces of information from various sources, thinking in this way to increase our knowledge. This is that very first conversation. So this shows you how important this idea is. This is the first lesson, or one of the first lessons, that M gets from the Master in the Gospel, in the very first few pages that we read on Monday night or Tuesday night. That this is where that comes from. This notion that there's worldly knowledge and spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge, actually all knowledge according to Vivekananda, is pre-existing, that we have access to it in the silence, in the realm of silence, the realm of intuition, the realm of being. And that all wisdom lies there, and lies there waiting and accessible to us all the time. But we have to know that existence. It's not something you can go search for, because it's not a situation of particulars, right? It's not something that the ego, it's on the backside of ego, so ego can't see it. It's a business before ego. He says, but actually following this way, we end up knowing nothing at all, right? So when M says his wife is ignorant, Ramakrishna jumps on him right away. Oh, and you're a man of knowledge, teaching him, like, to know God, to know the existence, to know the reality, the ultimate reality, that is knowledge. Anything else is just stuff. Real knowledge is to know the self, knowing that which knowing all is known. And so he's saying here that don't make your practice and your religion and your spiritual life about collections. Make them about realizations and being and becoming, according to Swamiji. All those words he uses about spiritual life. Our spiritual life, the practice is to be, and to finally be what we have always been, without calculation, without objective, without a goal. Just pure isness. Our understanding of Buddhism should not be just gathering many pieces of information, seeking to gain knowledge. Instead of gathering knowledge, you should clear your mind. Okay, so see, that's what we're doing, clearing our mind. And so all of these things, all of these classes and lectures that we have going on, and the billions of opportunities to add more things to our data banks online, that's not the goal. That's not where we're going with this. We're learning all of this so that we can learn the relationships in our imagined world, our presumed relationships in our thinking. We're looking to clear those out, not to add more nodes of relation, to talk in computer language, not to add more nodes, more objects to the mind, and then draw more lines, more tendrils of distinction and and relation between them and the other objects in the mind, to stop doing that, what we're looking to do is to push them all aside evenly, and to just experience awareness, our own awareness, aware of itself. Clear your mind. If your mind is clear, true knowledge is already yours. That's what we're talking about. That in the moment always provides everything necessary for navigating the moment perfectly. All right, that's one of, I think it's Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj that says that. Every moment contains all that you need to navigate that moment perfectly. You don't need to gather things for success in spiritual life. And so he's saying that if you can clear your mind, and this is where Eckhart Tolle says also in his Power of Now, he says you cannot imagine the immensity of knowledge available to you in the silence of the mind. He says that the knowledge available to you in the silence of the mind far outweighs all of the amount of information you can place within the mind. And so what does that mean? I don't really know. That space of all-knowing, that space of non-particularization where the mind is clear and there's silence, information that's necessary rises spontaneously. That's why this notion, that shocking statement that even if a realized soul commits murder, he gets no karma, because there is no self-will within. There is no cause and effect. That he's the thought of the universe, the thoughts of the divine are immediately what is manifested or what is expressed by the realized soul. So there is no individual self there to attach karma to. There is no doership on the part of the realized soul. So clear your mind. If your mind is clear, true knowledge is already yours. When you listen to our teaching with a pure, clear mind, you can accept it as if you were hearing something which you already knew. That's a wonderful thing. Isn't that, I've heard other people have that experience, but that's one of the reasons I got and stayed so interested in the Vedanta, is because that was my feeling when I was first learning these truths and hearing them for the first time. My experience of that was that somebody had gone into my own mind and pulled out all of my aha moments that I've had in my life, all those periods where I thought, that's what I believe. Oh, I think that's true. That they went in and pulled out all of my aha moments, organized them, outlined them, put them in a beautiful essay, and handed them back to me, and called it the Ashtavakra Samhita. Not that I already had that in my mind, but that was the feeling. Whenever I would read the Vedanta, I'd be like, yeah, that's it. That's, wow, I could not have said it that way. Perfect. I've always believed that. And so this is that sense. When you come to realization, as you move closer to that, you're like, oh, yeah, of course. How did I not see that? How do I not be able to think that way? That every step in our spiritual life as we get closer to the beloved is that, because that's the ultimate truth. Falling in love with God is falling in love with your true self. You've exiled yourself from that self, from that knowledge, from that being. You've exiled yourself. And so each step of the return should open this very beautiful sense of homecoming, this sense of, I've already been here. Oh, hey, yes, of course I know this. Oh yes, that is mine. I do remember. So it's that kind of experience. When you listen to our teaching with a pure and clear mind, you can accept it as if you were hearing something which you already knew. This is called emptiness or omnipotent self, or knowing everything. So that emptiness and that fullness are the same in that state, that knowing everything and knowing nothing. It's because there's no particularization, which means you're not grasping or picking up or identifying with or relating to something. It's simply arising in the freshness of the moment. You just know what needs to be said is said. What needs to be done is done. There's no reasoning. There's no calculation. There's no gaining or grasping in it. It's simply you in pure mind, acting perfectly according to nature, according to that divine nature within. That through your discernment, you've been able to sort out the self, Satchitananda, and to see the rest as separate, to see its nature through your discernment, and to lose interest in it, in the sense of the idea of getting anything from it goes away. And in that state of being where you need nothing, you're not intoxicated by any particulars out there. In that sobriety, you are perfect. You are a seer. You are a sage. This is called emptiness, or omnipotent self, or knowing everything. When you know everything, you are like a dark sky. Sometimes a flashing will come through that dark sky. After it passes, you forget all about it, and there is nothing left but the dark sky. The sky is never surprised when all of a sudden a thunderbolt breaks through. And when the lightning does flash, a wonderful sight may be seen. We have seen emptiness. We are always prepared for watching the flashing. Okay, so we can in that emptiness, you're at full attention. And in being at full attention, you have perfect objectivity. You can see things without interpretation. You don't give them meaning. They are what they are in and of themselves, and they are coming from you like a fountain. You are not grabbing. You're not going after the drops. You're seeing the fountain in its beauty as a whole. So that with that even awareness, the slightest ripple here, you notice and you see, and its effect, So there's a wisdom in that being, a depth of insight that really is just clear awareness, right? Good morning, Padma. Welcome. So he goes on. When you know everything, you are like the dark sky. So that's that dark sky, no particulars. It's just the mood and atmosphere of the dark sky. The lightning flashes, and you see everything at once. Everything is illuminated brightly, and then it's dark again. That, I guess, is he's talking about that awareness at that time, and that flash of lightning would be the need to know, or the transmission of of what's necessary to the moment, where you get that flash, full insight, you see everything at one time. You don't grasp at it. It's done its expression, it's done its revelation, and you just continue on. There's no seeking, no needing. And when the lightning does flash, a wonderful sight may be seen. When we have emptiness, we are always prepared for watching the flashing. So if you're sitting there in awareness, waiting for that flash of lightning, when it happens, you're fully aware of it. You see it all at once. It lights up everything simultaneously and evenly. And so that's how we sit and practice. We turn ourselves into a giant ear. Every one of our faculties, all of our faculties of action, we turn into faculties of listening. So even the mind is silent and is facing toward the divine, ready to reflect anything that comes from the divine, not producing any of its own vibrations, not making any noise of its own, right? Because the only things that cause the mind to sound are what? Me and mine. False identification. Without that false identification, there's no interest. With no interest, there's no particulars. With no particulars, there's pure mind. With pure mind, there is God, and God alone. Pure mind and God are the same. Pure mind and Brahman, Ramakrishna says. In China, Rozan is famous for its misty scenery. I have not been to China yet, but there must be beautiful mountains there. And to see the white clouds or mist come and go through the mountains must be a very wonderful sight. Although it is wonderful, a Chinese poem says, Rozan is famous for its misty rainy days and the great river Seco for its tide, coming and going. That is all. That is all, but it is splendid. This is how we appreciate things, right? This is how we appreciate things. So you recognize it, but you don't try and grab onto it. You know, it's the thing with a camera. I had a story, Clement Jesh, he was an artist in San Francisco, moved to Indonesia, but he wrote me one time a letter from, I think he was it wasn't Vietnam, but it was one of those countries near there, Burma. I think it was Burma. And he was hiking through the jungle with a guide to go to a sadhu's cave, a Buddhist monk who lived in a cave there. And so he was talking about this beautiful experience of pushing through the jungle and pushing past these ancient ruins and climbing this hill to a cave that was all root covered. All the trees had grown all these roots around the entrance to the cave, and pushing his way into this dark cave. And when his eyes adjusted, seeing a beautiful shrine to the Buddha in there with candles all around and incense burning, and this beautiful atmosphere of just a palpable peace was in there. And he sat down and began to meditate and said that he was having one of the most beautiful meditations of his life, when all of a sudden a group of tourists shows up, like 8 people at a time, he says, and they all just pushed in. And he said the thing was amazing to him was that every one of them had their video cameras in their hands and were staring at the video screens, filming the whole room. They all came in, they all walked around the room, they filmed the sadhu sitting there in deep meditation, they filmed the shrine, they filmed everything in there. They weren't in there 6 minutes, he said, and then turned around, got back out, and it turns around that, you know, on the other direction from which he had came, there was a parking lot, so that these guys could get up there with ease, that he didn't have to walk through that whole jungle. But he saw the difference. He said, you know, those guys that came here on the bus through the parking lot, came in with their cameras, they were all just looking at the screen. They never actually saw what they were filming. So they're never going to get more of an experience of that place than the screen that they're looking at, even in their memories. And what are cameras? Cameras are attachment devices, right? They take everything out of its temporary nature and gives it a more lasting nature, so that you can be more firmly attached to it. You know, so if you are living your life like that, like a camera, you know, trying to gather and remember and hold, you're not present. You know, you're not present. Be present. Don't worry about the memories. Don't worry about the experiences. Don't worry about particulars. Don't worry about success and failure, any of these things that motivate us. Don't go trying to collect things to feed these ideas. That's a tourist walking around this world with a camera, getting everything secondhand. You don't want to live this life like a tourist. You know, you want to live your life, this life, like a sadhu. You want to be perfectly aware of everything, but not attaching or grasping, not creating the experience, you know. So Clement went up, and by simply being, didn't even have a camera, finds this beautiful oasis and has a fantastic experience, you know, a lasting, meaningful experience, versus a group coming in with a camera, filming everything and walking out, getting back on the bus and going to the next thing. That's materialism. That's when we get caught up in the objects of the world. That's the best we can do, is run around trying to record everything, because everything's ending. Everything's gone as soon as you see it. So you have to make it last, and you make it last by attaching to it, by creating an object in your mind from it, and by ruminating, sitting and thinking about that object later. And of course, what's going to happen to all those people when they go back to their lives, you know, in their little tiny city apartments, going to work all day, and they come home, and maybe 15 years from now, because everybody knows you never look at the pictures from your vacation. You spend all that time collecting all of those things, and they go in a box for someone to find when you die. And so you know, it's very true. I cleaned out a woman's apartment one time who had passed away. She was the last of her family line. And she had boxes and boxes. She was so organized, meticulously organized. She had a file for every vacation she had ever been on. And in each one of those files was all of the little mementos, a napkin from this bar, a signature from this friend, you know, this famous person they met at this place, a postcard, you know, the just all of these things in there. And I just looked through that. It was such a box of tchotchkes, a box of memories. It was somehow beautiful, truly. But also I kind of realized, look, what the ultimate purpose is of all these things we collect, to throw them in a dumpster by a third party who has no connection to them at all. You know, but that's the thing that I'm going to go on here a little bit more because there's some beautiful things in there. She had because she was the last of her family, she had all of the family albums going back to the beginning of photographs. I mean, the very earliest things, just a whole closet, 3 big shelves in one of those double wide closets full of photo albums. And I sat there and I looked through them all, and you know, the pain that I was feeling with having to just toss these things in a dumpster, because I realized, what is this photo album? They're only beautiful because of the love within you. Once you've gone away, it's trash. So look around your house and understand that everything in there without you is trash. It has no purpose. You live in trash heaps. Start your discernment. Get out of the situation. Stop surrounding yourself with trash that's only important because of what's within you, and you've forgotten what's within you, and you've become absorbed in the trash that reflects it back to you. Reverse that. Put the horse back in front of the cart. You know, understand that that which is within you is the beautiful thing. And everything you have in your home that you consider beautiful is beautiful because of what's in here reflecting off of it and saying, that's beautiful. That's beauty. How do I know beauty? Because beauty is here. And that's reminding me of what's here. That's why I find it beautiful. So understand what makes everything in your home, including your relationships with your children and your husbands and wives and cousins and second cousins. And I know those families are huge and go on eventually reaching me. That's the amazing thing. So we're all part of those families, but those families are only important because you're in them, because of the love that's within you. So remember that when you lose your husband, when you lose your children, remember it was the love in that relationship that was real. It wasn't the bodies. It wasn't the times. It was the love. And that love is still there. And as long as you don't identify that person with a body, you identify them with the love that you have for them inside, the love that they inspired inside, you will always have them, because that love is eternal. That relationship is eternal. And so when you feel that love after they've passed away, don't let it remind you of a body and make you sad. Don't let it remind you of a time and place and make you sad. Indulge in the presence of love and celebrate the person again. Enjoy their presence again by remembering the love, by bringing out that love. You don't even have to remember it. It's still there. Bring that love out and enjoy that person, because you carry them within you now in a more pure form than you could have ever carried them as a body or a mind. So know that and be joyful through all circumstances. Understand that the things as they seem are not real, and stop being affected by them that way. There is no sadness in the kingdom of the divine. There's no need. Everything is always perfect as it is. Learn to see that, and you approach your own mind. You approach your own reality. You begin to know. And in that world of perfection is your bliss, always present, always available to you. Just begin to see things as they are and not as you wish them to be. So we see things, we name it as beautiful, like this region here, and we appreciate it, and we just leave it. We know there's nothing more than what it provides in the moment. It's the way that we talk about, that I like to talk about that, is that smell of pizza. Let the smell of pizza be the smell of pizza. It's beautiful in it of itself, and it's enough. It doesn't mean you have to go get a piece of pizza. So stop letting the world convince you you need more of anything to be satisfied. Simply see the pizza, smell the pizza, enjoy the smell, and keep going. Happy that you got to smell pizza. You know, if you look out the office window and it's a beautiful day, let it be a beautiful day. Don't let the beautiful day convince you you need more and then become sad that you can't go out hiking because you're at work, or become sad because you can't go out and take a bike ride. That's falling prey to the lie. Look out the window, see the beautiful day, and let it be a beautiful day, and continue working, enjoying the beautiful day as you work. Don't let the beautiful things of this world convince you that you need more of them. Let their beauty be enough in the moment. And then if you can do that, you'll become aware of more beauty in the moment, because you won't be stuck thinking about the beauty of the last moment, the imagined last moment. So this is what he's saying. Stop trying to milk an imaginary cow. Yeah. So you should accept knowledge as if you were hearing something you already knew, because you are. You read these scriptures to be reminded of things you already know. And that's definitely the sensation when you have those aha moments. Oh, wow. Oh, yes. But this does not mean to receive various pieces of information merely as an echo of your own opinions. It means that you should not be surprised at whatever you see or hear. If you receive things as just as an echo of yourself, you do not really see them. You do not fully accept them as they are. And what does that mean? Anybody want to take a stab at that? What does it mean to see things as an echo of yourself rather than to see things as they are? That echo of yourself would be what? It would be a perception of ego, an ego perspective. So you're not seeing the thing as it is. You're assigning its relationship to you is what you find beautiful. You know, it's the difference between, if you can look at a car in a parking lot. Well, you can look at a car in a parking lot. You can see a really nice car, right? And you can comment, "Oh, it's a really nice car." You're seeing that car. But you're not caught. You're free. You just keep walking on over and you get in your Camry and go home. But if you walk through the parking lot and you see a beautiful car and it's your car, there's another level of attachment there. You know, you can't just let it be a car. It's like, that's a beautiful car. That's my car. You know, and then suddenly all this other concern, and you don't see any of the other cars in the parking lot. Well, maybe you do anyway. But see this notion, don't have ego attachment or an ego definition of what you're looking at, which means don't look at it and define it according to you, according to your own ideas, your own values, your own judgments. See it as it is. Try to pull yourself out of it. You know, this was an exercise that Mother brings it to mind, so I'll share it. But back when 9/11 happened, you know, I really did a lot of thinking about that, because I watched those planes fly into the towers in real time, and I had to start asking some questions about the world I lived in. I was like, what? People don't do that. How did this happen? As long as I stayed from the perspective of myself, of a white, young American male, I could see nothing but the evil and horror of that, right? Because I was attacked. What a horrible, evil thing. But that night on the news, I remember seeing those pictures from some places in the Middle East where the young men my age were out dancing in the streets, celebrating this thing. And it made me sit there and think. I was like, okay, I can stay in a two-dimensional world and just say they're evil, but they're not. They're just people. How is it that this event is causing them to dance and it's causing me to freak out, in horror at an unbelievable evil? It's because when I looked at it, I was dragging my ego perspective into it, right? And that came up with all my definitions and all my reasons, and it made me my enemy. It made me have to be right inside so that I wouldn't, feel like I deserved to have my buildings blown up. And so it's that pulling away from your particulars and being able to see things as they are. It's like every time there's a big natural disaster, the ministers, the extremists are getting up in their pulpits and blaming it on somebody. Oh, this is because of the pedophiles. Oh, this is because of the gay people. Oh, this is because, oh, it's a punishment for this, a punishment for that. That's dragging your ego perspective into something. It was an earthquake. That was all. It was a big rainstorm. That was all. It was a flood. That was all. These things happen. And we understand that. We can make room for that when it's an act of nature. We can say, oh, this is just a happening. This is the way it is. And we see it as it is, and we move on. We do what's necessary. We try to alleviate suffering. We try to fix it the best we can. We try to prepare, for it to not happen again, but we keep going on. But when we have that ego attachment to something, usually something that's man-made, we can't just let it be. No, if it's man-made, no, it's got reason and purpose and ego involved in it. And then it becomes this huge gyration, it becomes this huge out of proportion thing. And depending on how attached we are to the items we're thinking about, it can be for weeks at a time. We can get caught up in things, right? If you're having a trouble with a relationship and you're not resolving it, that will mess up every meditation for the next month and a half, I guarantee you. So that's why Jesus gives that teaching. He says, if you go to the shrine to worship and you remember your brother has something against you, set down your offering, go and make it right with your brother, and then come back and make your offering. Because you won't be able to make your offering as long as that problem with your brother is clouding your screen, clouding your ability to be present. So that's how we live. As problems arise, we fix them and we keep moving. We just keep moving. We don't get spun out on anything. So if you are ready to accept things as they are, you will receive them as old friends, even though you appreciate them with new feeling. And we should not hoard knowledge. We should be free from our knowledge. If you collect various pieces of knowledge as a collection, it may be very good, but this is not our way. We should not try to surprise people by our wonderful treasures. We should not be interested in something special. If you want to appreciate something fully, you should forget yourself. You should accept it like lightning flashing in the utter darkness of a sky. Yeah, so there's a few things in this that are quite nice. But up here when he says, we don't hoard knowledge, that's not the point. So we've beat that horse over the head a few times. We're not collecting knowledge. That's not the point of our religion or of our spiritual life. He says, if you collect various pieces of knowledge, if you do get interested in teapots from China from the Ming Dynasty, what does he say about that? It may be very good. It's just not the way. So it's not something you have to be, kick yourself around the block for. Oh, God, I bought that teapot. I bought another one. Now I've got 49 teapots. So you collect these things, fine. Don't get hung up with it one way or the other. If it becomes an issue, if it becomes something that, like Prabhutananda said, as long as your phone is for you, no problem. As soon as you become for your phone, that's the problem. If that phone chirps in the front room and you immediately have to jump up from your meditation in the shrine and run downstairs, see what the message is, make your answer, lay the phone down again and run back up into the shrine, sit down and say, I'm so sorry, Thakur, I'll be right with you. That's when you are for the phone. The phone's not for you. You know that the phone is for you when you hear it chirp and you say, Thakur, the phone's chirping. Remind me to get that later when I'm back down there. You are not for the phone. The phone is for you. And as long as things in your life are like that, you're all right. When you start having to serve the things in your life, then you've got a little bit of a problem. You're getting pulled off center. So you should see everything like a flash of lightning in the sky, which means see it all, appreciate it all. When it's gone, don't go trying to build more lightning. Just let it be. It's comes, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's dramatic, it goes, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's dramatic. Life is always unfolding, and it's always beautiful. It's always amazing, and it's quite often traumatic. Sometimes we think that it's impossible for us to understand something unfamiliar, but actually there is nothing that is unfamiliar to us. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Every human being that you meet, you can know there is nothing in that human being that's not familiar to you, because they are you. And so why set up these artificial requirements of distance? Be as close to everybody as you'd like to be. You are intimate with them. You know? In that sense also, nothing is unfamiliar. Why? Because everything is merely a combination of the five. Remember, I've used that phrase in the past. Every experience you have, every person you know, every place you've gone is merely an arrangement of five senses. Merely an arrangement of the five. All of your favorite things are just an arrangement of the five. And so you've only got five things in actuality in the material world. You've got taste, touch, sight, smell, feeling. No, that was touch. Anyway, you've got five of them, trust me. There's five of them out there, and everything is only of those five. So stop believing there's 10 billion things out there. There's not. There's 10 billion combinations of five things, the five senses. That's all you've got to work with. You're spending your whole life here. What are you going to do? Look for different combinations of five to be titillated by over and over and over again until you die? Or are you going to get more interested in who's receiving these five titillations? Are you going to be interested in why there's an interest, why there's an awareness of them to begin with? Go on a real journey. Don't just get distracted by combinations of the five. Let it be. Nothing that you will ever experience will be anything more than that. You're already fully familiar with it. You already know the story. Stop purposely forgetting that and trying to be titillated by an imagined story, by a projected story. You know, be done with the world as titillation, as interest, as entertainment, and see the world as your beloved, as your relationship with the divine, with your dance with mother, with father, with brother, with sister, as it were. See God everywhere. See this oneness, and know the things that make it all important and that make it beautiful are in you, inside. Go and sit with those things. They are the real value. Nothing, but actually there is nothing that is unfamiliar to us. Some people may say it is almost impossible to understand Buddhism because our cultural background is so different. How can we understand Oriental thought? Of course, Buddhism cannot be separated from its cultural background. That is true. But if a Japanese Buddhist comes to the United States, he's no longer a Japanese. I am living in your cultural background. I am eating nearly the same food as you eat, and I am communicating with you in your language. Even though you do not understand me completely, I want to understand you, and I may understand you better than anyone who can speak and understand English. This is true. Even if I could not understand English at all, I think I could communicate with people. There is always a possibility of understanding as long as we exist in the utter darkness of the sky, as long as we live in emptiness, right? As long as we live in the world of non-particular. So this emptiness is well, it's a recognition of what it is. There's nothing out there that we need or want. So it might as well be a dark room because it's irrelevant to us. That dark room could be dark or it could be brightly lit. If there's no interest in what's in it, your experience of that room will be the same, right? So if that room contains everything or nothing, is irrelevant, because the emptiness is not a description of the room. It's a description of your experience of the room. There's nothing there that you need. There's nothing there that you want. It's just what it is. It's accepted. That's emptiness. That's freedom. That's the result of discernment, of seeing things as they are, which is a result of being fully present and stopping the imagination of past, present, and future, cause and effect. You know, that this moment is as it always is. I have always said that you must be very patient if you want to understand Buddhism, but I have been seeking for a better word than patience. Yeah, you know, boy, that's true. Because, you know, first of all, probably most of us, many of us here have been practicing for many, 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 many years. And it takes a lot of patience. But then when you imagine that all of us here have probably been practicing for many, many, many thousands of years, it's astonishing the amount of patience that is necessary. But it's not so much that we need more patience. What we need is less attachment. Then it wouldn't be such an endeavor, such a long thing. But that's a beautiful way of thinking. You know, I remember sitting in the shrine in DC once, and I was, you know, I'd been there for, I don't know, maxing out at my attention for a meditation at about 41 minutes. I'm sitting there and I'm starting to get antsy, starting to kind of, you know, I never understood why they hang the clock in the back of the room, because, you know, if I'm meditating, I have to turn all the way around, see how much longer I have to endure this experience for. You know, why don't they just put the clock up right above Thakur's head there so I can, you know, have a clear picture all the time of what I need to be patient about. But this notion, I was sitting there having fun with this, watching myself be impatient and just kind of, you know, fluttering around the periphery of my impatience and sort of making fun of it in myself and sort of trying to understand it in myself and to see where the problem was in it. And I had this thought that how silly for you to be impatient sitting here watching yourself meditate, because you've been sitting here watching for time immemorial. You have been only an observer for thousands and thousands, maybe millions, maybe billions. I don't have any idea, but I have only been an observer sitting here watching all of this for billions of years. What powerful delusion comes over me that I would get impatient about a small section of meditation? These few minutes are somehow intolerable, when I've been sitting here in absolute patience, absolute unaffected peace for thousands of years, trying to realize the truth of that experience, trying to realize the import and realness of that experience. Thousands, millions of years you've been sitting here. How absurd is even the notion of impatience in that scale? How absurd. You know, what a clear, you can clearly see that it's attachment to ideas that pulls us out of meditation. You know, it's an attachment to other ideas that make us impatient. Impatience not really a thing. It's a desire. It's an unfulfilled desire. I have always said that you must be very patient if you want to understand Buddhism, but I've been seeking a better word than patience. The usual translation of the Japanese word nin is patience, but perhaps constancy is a better word. You must force yourself to be patient, but in constancy, there is no particular effort involved. There is only the unchanging ability to accept things as they are. That's exactly right. To accept things as they really are, to accept the moment as it is, to love the moment as it comes to you, is what non-attachment is. That is what non-attachment looks like. It is only your attachments that ever ruin the moment for you. It is only your attachments that make you discontent, that make you unhappy. It is only your attachments that cause you to suffer. There is nothing else in this world that causes suffering but your attachment. And so go to the root when you see that and understand that. and understand that this moment, like that time, that story I've told many times about Swami Arapasananda walking around the compound. God is everywhere present and always perfect. And I'm seeing his lips moving all day that day. And I just went to him. I said, bro, what are you doing? I hear you. I see you muttering to yourself. I've not seen you been doing that before. And he said, oh, my mother's in the hospital. I don't know if she's going to make it. And I'm just walking around reminding myself, God is everywhere present and always perfect. I'm trying to see this moment as perfect, trying to see my mother in the hospital as perfect, trying to understand. And I thought that was so beautiful to see that and to know that. And that's how we are. We've got our eyes on the light, and we're always seeking to see the truth of the moment. We're not getting caught. We're not getting caught in the moment. Perhaps constancy is a better word. You must force yourself to be patient, but in constancy, there's no particular effort involved. There is only the unchanging ability to accept things as they are. For people who have no idea of emptiness, this ability may appear to be patience, but patience can actually be non-acceptance. People who know, even if only intuitively, the state of emptiness, always have open the possibility of accepting things as they are. They can appreciate everything. In everything they do, even though it may be very difficult, they will always be able to dissolve their problems by constancy. We're going to stop there because it's 10 o'clock. But this is fundamental. This at this level, when we talk about constancy or patience or seeing the moment as perfect as it is, every last piece of information of the Vedanta is conspiring toward that particular end. Everything that you learn from Thakur is to bring you to that moment of ability where you are able to see perfection in the moment as it is, no matter what's going on. We looked at Rakib Shah's paintings, and the first impression you always get from one of his paintings is, wow, that's stunning, that's beautiful, it's just powerful, there's so much there going on. But when you look at the details of the painting, there's dead bodies, there's mutilated bodies, there's fires, there's snakes with their fangs showing. It's like when you go into the details, the particulars of the painting, there's great suffering and great drama and conflict and stress going on everywhere. But the picture as a whole is beautiful. And see, that is what we're moving toward. We're moving towards seeing life as a whole and not getting caught up in the particular. So we can have the hissing snake and the tormented bodies and we can have death and life and all of these things in this vast array of life. And the full picture is always beautiful. The suffering is in the particular, and the particular is attachment. So always try and find that perspective of the divine, where there are no bodies, no minds. There is only Satchitananda, the expression of love in its myriad of forms. Some of them terrifying, some of them sublime, all of them beautiful. And that is practice. I think they would say that is Zen.
Lovely class, Maharaj. Thank you.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, glad. Jaimal. All right. Well, we'll see some of you tonight, other times.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Maharaj. Good, yes.
And
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Swami.
get
Lovely.
to the mountain top. The first one to the top gets to teach the class. I'm on.